Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and that is Tim, and we of course talk about horror movies. But it is December, it is the season, so Merry Christmas first of all. We're getting that. It's that time of the year again. We're going to do a couple of Christmas movies over this week and next, to be in the holiday spirit. And this week, funnily enough, this marks the third episode in a row where we've done a foreign movie, which was not intentional. It just kind of worked out that way.
Oh,
But this week we watched a movie that I have been meaning to get around to ever since it came out, which I shockingly realised when I went to put it on that it's been 6 years since it came out, which makes me
oh wow.
terrible at actually seeing movies because it took me that goddamn long. But we're going to be talking about Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale, which is a Finnish film, and it is the story about the real less than pleasant version of Santa Claus, and him coming back one Christmas in the sort of the middle of the sort of rural area of Finland, right at the border. So, we'll start spoiler free as we tend to do, and we'll go into spoilers partway through. Tim,
Yes.
how did you like this one? And I asked this nervously because last week we had different opinions, and I want a nice easy week,
Mhm.
Tim. So go on, lay it on me.
I don't know. I really like this movie quite a bit. It has a very good. Well, actually, let me start with this because I think I mentioned it when we did like holiday movies last year. But I really like Christmas horror movies, uh, especially the ones that are usually involve some type of killer deranged Santa.
Silent Night,
Um,
Deadly Night, yes.
yeah.
Christmas Evil, yes. We did both of those last year. There'll be links in the corner if you want to see your thoughts on those.
And yeah, this is no exception. This is a really good one. I really like the setting, like the very bleak, very snowy landscape. I thought it looked really good. I have a few complaints, but we can uh, get on that a little later. But overall, thoughts are I really dug it.
I have a couple of nitpicks, and I do have one kind of sizable thing to mention that I'd wished happened.
Yeah.
However, I really enjoyed it as well. To me, I mean, this is like debatably riding a very thin line as to like, is it really a horror movie? And it kind of is, and it kind of is. I would say it's verging more into the sort of Gremlins territory where it's got horror ideas and it's touching on
Mhm.
horror, but it's not maybe a full out horror movie. But it doesn't matter because it's Christmas, so we're going to have fun
Yeah.
anyway. And it's mostly from the point of view of the kid. And I will say his name once, maybe more. I'll butcher it probably. I believe it looks like it's the Finnish version of my name, amusingly enough, but I'll struggle to say it anyway. Uh, Pietari is the kid's name, and it's him and his dad, and his dad's two sort of friends slash co-workers, who sort of like the movie's mainly about. His dad's a butcher, and the other guys I think are in the same trade. And there's this mountain near where they live, and this big mountain that has been dug by foreigners because they're looking for something. And lo and behold, it's the real Santa Claus who's been trapped in ice, for the last
Mhm.
100 years, 200 years, whatever it's been, maybe thousands. I can't remember. I missed the timestamp on the burial. What I really like about it is that it does feel like one of those Christmas movies where everything's from the point of view of the kid, and we
Oh yeah.
follow the kid, and it's like his perception of things. Like when he sees the adults doing something that's kind of scary, like he gets scared, and it's glimpses
Mhm.
around corners, and it's you know also that idea that he's ready to believe in things a lot more because he's a kid,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
he kind of believes in Santa, but then he believes in all these legends of this evil, version, the real Santa, and
Yeah.
I really like that idea. It gives it this kind of. It would almost be suitable for kids if it wasn't for all the full frontal male nudity that's in the movie. But more on that in
Yeah.
spoilers.
Yeah, I like how proactive the main character is. Like he's like pretty much like right from the start of the movie, you see him like kind of getting all this like protective gear together, kind of like making traps and stuff inside the home. Uh,
Yeah, which by
I
the way,
like.
I love that in movies. I love when kids like
Oh
go
yeah.
full on like prepared and like it's the Home
Yeah.
Alone thing. It's like all right, no, all right, getting ready to defend. Even if that and the adults of course think he's being immature and stupid and what's he doing, but he turns out to
Mhm.
be right. It just I don't know. I always enjoy that in movies.
Yeah. And then and like you said, it kind of starts off with there's this corporation which I don't know if they're supposed to be American,
the character we see speaking at the start is definitely English. It's definitely an English accent he has.
Yeah.
And then there's another guy who sounded German, maybe the accent, so it was hard to tell.
Yeah.
There is at least one American because they find a passport, or maybe the company they're from is American.
Yeah, but I just like, they're this kind of like rich, industry guy is trying to like dig up the original Santa. I like it. It almost gives it like kind of like a Jurassic Park kind of vibe or something, where it's like, man, kind of, almost like a
and over his head.
Yeah,
playing with forces that he should not be tampering with, and
tempting nature, kind of like.
To quote Jurassic Park, you were too preoccupied whether or not you could. You never stopped to ask if you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. That quote is very usable, and it's usable here. So, nah. But like you say, it's got the snowy landscape down, which is great. So it feels Christmassy at the same time. It's kind of different because it's a different country. It's not. It's not. I mean, it's part of the Western world, but it's not. Like, that this particular, like, there's like customs, like, I was wondering, like, did they put up trees because I didn't see a tree in the house, or is that just them not putting up a tree, and things like that. Like, I didn't see any presents. Did they do presents in Finland? I mean, they probably do, but maybe this is just a poor family because there's one of the plots is that they're struggling for money, so it might just be this is them, kind of thing, not being able to.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like when we were talking about the whaling last week, just how like it's just really interesting to see a different country, and I just kind of get excited to see even like the boring stuff, like how they live and stuff, and like how like we only see like a couple of like locations here, and I kept wondering like, oh, is this what like a lot of the country is like? Do they not really have like a lot of big cities, or are they just really far away?
Oh, I'm sure Finland has big cities.
Yeah, well, I hopefully someday I will come explore their fine land. But until now, this is my only representation of their country.
I kind of want to live in a place where a snowmobile is like a normal way of getting around.
That is pretty cool.
Because his dad goes out on the snowmobile and he drives out, and I'm like, I want a snowmobile. I want to live in a place where I can just use a snowmobile on a daily basis. This is great.
Yeah, it'd be fun. And I kept wondering like how cold it really was out there, because it looks like it would be freezing, but there are like scenes where they're like running around in their underwear and stuff outside.
Well, I think that's a combination of things. I think part of it is it's possible for it to be too cold for snow. So
okay, interesting.
So I don't think so. I think it's obviously it's cold, but it's not that cold. But I also think that the other part of it is, if it's always like that, then they'll be used to that temperature.
To it, yeah.
So to them, like, cold, they'll be a lot lower than what we would maybe call cold. And I'm already pretty cold-blooded as it is, but I'm sure Finland would probably freeze my ass off. But
interesting.
Nah, that's so that's enough about the setting. Although one thing that the setting kind of plays into, but that's not really why I'm making this comparison. The movie, in a weird way, it's like a cross between something like a Gremlins or a Krampus with a Coen Brothers movie.
I could see that. Yeah, that's
and I don't just mean
comparison.
And I'm kind of half joking because of the snow in Fargo, but
yeah,
what I'm really meaning though is just the way the scenarios play out, because we get to a point where it's like the dad and his two like friends like trying to like hold something for ransom, and it just feels like a Coen Brothers movie, or maybe even a little bit of like a Tarantino style plot where. And it ultimately isn't. The movie doesn't really end that way either, but it just there's a chunk in the middle where I'm like, this is kind of this instead of this, and that was kind of what I really like about it. And this is something that I've noticed that I only tend to get from foreign movies, from countries other than US, UK, that kind of. It tends to. I've noticed it a lot from Korean films, and certainly here with this and other sort of Norwegian and the Nordic countries, is. They seem to be able to nail this really different tone that we would never get in our movies. Where it can be really serious, but there's also like a playfulness to everything as well at the same time, and it can be really funny at the drop of a hat without.
Yeah, like there's some like funny parts in this, but it's never like over the top. Like it's almost like a dry humor kind of thing where it's like the characters are you know, they never like are over exaggerating things or anything, like, you
Because
know what I mean?
this movie alone has like whimsical Christmas adventure at some points, right? Which is really heartwarming. It had really creepy moments. It had, like I say, Coen-esque moments, you know? And then, and as I said as well, it could almost be suitable for kids, but then you have full frontal male nudity several times.
Yeah.
Like, you would never mix all these things in like an
Yeah.
American movie. You just wouldn't do it. It'd be weird for that. But for they nail it. They make it work.
Yeah, that's really good at it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just I really enjoyed it in that sense.
Mm.
It's very brisk. In fact, most of my minor nitpicks probably come from the fact that it's maybe a little bit too short. It could have maybe done with another 10, 15 minutes just to flesh out a couple of because there was especially in the second half, I felt like there was a couple of like plot developments where they almost seemed to rush past them. Where I'm like, you didn't really stop and acknowledge that this is where we are now. If that makes sense.
The way I was kind of thinking about it is I felt like there was wasted potential. Like I felt like there was stuff that was set up that I felt like, oh, that'll be cool when we get there.
I know
And
what
then
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, I'm having trouble. One of the cats has just used the litter tray, and I can smell it, and it's
Oh,
not pleasant.
sorry.
It's not pleasant.
Well, you gotta stop keeping it right on your bed.
No, the smell travels. That's how bad it is, Tim. It travels.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, so that is it's pretty good. I think the kid who's playing Pietari is pretty good. I think all the three main adults are all really good as well. They have a, like you said, they've got this dry humor about them where they'll just say things in a really sort of like normal way, but there'll just be a slight heightened sense of humor about it. I think the relationship between the dad and the kid's really good. It hints at some of their past early on, and you get this sort of emotional bond, despite him being a very sort of cold and distant kind of dad, but he's trying his best kind of thing. He's he's struggling, but
yeah, there's that one like really heartwarming scene where they're at the dinner table or whatever, and they could just kind of bring up the mom. That was like kind of like you said, like all the different tones, and that was like a surprisingly like, oh, this is actually pretty emotional.
Because the mum's not there, and Jesus Christ, that smells. The mum's not there, so and I love that they never go into it any more than that. It's like it's one line of, oh, these just taste like mum used to make, and they never say anything else. But you get the emotion in the scene. You know that she passed away. It wasn't like they split up. This was a death, and it's never brought up again. And it doesn't need to be. It's like no, just one time. We know that's there. We know that's there the entire movie. We don't have to constantly talk about getting over his mother's death or whatever. Like it's not really. Whereas I feel like a lot of like more mainstream movies would, beat that horse dead, and at the same time, I think this oddly works for a mainstream audience. Obviously, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, subtitles. Well, I'm not watching subtitles," but honestly, this doesn't feel like a weird movie to me. I feel like you could show this to most people and they would go along for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think other than some of the obvious stuff you already mentioned, like the nudity and everything, like other than that, I think most people would be down for it.
But other than that, though, it's not that weird a movie in terms of like you recommend some movies and you recommend a great film like Old Boy, but if they're really weird, like if they're really not weird, if they're really anti-weird, I guess is the correct term. If they're really sort of prudish about certain things, like that movie will just disturb them and they will hate you forever for recommending it. Whereas this, I don't feel like. I feel like if you say to someone, "Oh, it's a movie about an evil Santa," they go, "Oh, that'll just ruin my idea of Christmas." No, it's a really fun movie.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. But no, I think that'll do for the spoiler free. So full spoilers from this point on for Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale. Few main points here I want to talk about. I want to mention a couple of specific moments. I love that. So obviously, what they believe is Santa is caught in this wolf trap, and the dad and the other two guys sort of have him held captive. And I love the moment when he's not responding to anything they say and he's just got his head down. But then when he hears a kid, he hears the kid outside. As soon as he hears a child, his
Yeah.
head like slowly comes up, and he looks like, all right, now his interest is peaked. That was proper creepy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the whole idea is that Santa in this likes to kidnap the naughty kids, and
Yeah.
uh,
And then they did such a good job of making it like so like animalistic. It was like the way he reacts is like so similar to, the times when I've been like with like my dogs or my cats or something, and they're just like totally passed out, and then like you break out some food and something, and then yeah, you just see that kind of slight twitch and little like pep in their step, and I don't know, I thought it was really cool that they made it these like kind of predatory animalistic kind of creatures.
no, I really like that. Even the way, even his shoulders were kind of like weird and pointy. Like I don't know if they did something to his shoulders to make them a bit more creepy,
That's
but
that's why I was wondering if they just found like a really creepy old looking guy, or if there was like a lot of like makeup or
yeah.
stuff that they did to make him look a little off.
Yeah. The stuff that was feeling really cones to me that I was mentioning is when they actually like tie him up in this like green thing, and he's hanging from he's hanging from the roof, and he's just sort of staring at them as he's swinging, and the three guys and the kid are all just sitting there eating like cookies.
Oh yeah.
And it felt so cones, and then the fact that they hear the company over the walkie-talkie, and they're like, oh, we'll sell him back to you, and it became like a sort of ransom. I was like, that's why I was like, this is like Fargo almost.
Yeah.
There's like some Coen elements coming into this. This is weird. But then the movie completely changes when they go to make the drop off. The guy from the start of the movie, like the opening scene, of course, which set up the company that's digging here. Yeah, he gets killed pretty quickly here, actually, but he sort of like he reveals that that's not really Santa. That's just one of his helpers. That's actually an elf. It looks like Santa. He's got the white beard. It looks like our image of Santa. But then we see lots of other like similar looking old guys. The elves coming out, and we see that the real Santa, who is a huge, almost Krampus style monster, is stuck in ice. And here's, as much as I love almost everything that happens after this, the one big complaint that I think you're going to share with me here is that we never actually get to see him wake up and do anything.
I mean, it's so it's so disappointing because it's like, in a horror movie, you're building, if you're mentioning or talking about this monster, and especially if you see like a slight glimpse of it.
Yeah, because you
like,
see his horns coming out of the ice.
Yeah, it's like you got to show it, like he has to come out at some point.
Yeah, that was
And
really weird because they were doing their whole plan because they find that because it's like seeded throughout that the radiators are going missing, and like sacks are going missing, and they've got all the kids in the town in sacks, and they've got all these radiators up against the ice trying to melt Santa out. And by the way, this is when Pietari like has his big moment where he fires the shotgun that he's been carrying the whole movie.
oh yeah,
And he's
very
like,
badass.
it's me or Santa, and I choose me.
Yeah, he kind of like he's been like entertaining and kind of like plucky this whole movie, but he like becomes full on like badass like John McClane.
Yeah,
like
it
hero.
does. It's really awesome because the whole movie he's kind of like asking for his dad for permission for stuff. He's his friend is kind of a bully to him, and he's kind of the wimp that's like picked on. And this is when he like takes charge. Even the adults, it's like, no, shut up. I've got a plan. We're going to do this. Yeah. And it's his plan to blow up Santa. It's his plan to, because one of the dad's friends, the one who dresses up at Santa at Christmas, he happens to be a pilot. So he like grabs the company's helicopter, and they pick up all the kids and the sacks. Which, by the way, I did think it was a bit weird that they didn't take the kids out of the sacks.
Yeah. I feel like they probably still would have followed him, but
yeah, that was a bit weird. So the plan is to lure all of these Santa helpers away. We get this great magical moment of like the kid like hanging. His dad's let him go, hanging onto the net that's holding all the kids in the sacks, and we get these great shots of the helicopter flying around with all the elves like going underneath, and the kid sort of yells out as if he's excited, and like the music swells up, and we have this magical, almost like Christmas walking in the air, snowman-esque moment of him like flying around it underneath the helicopter, and I'm like, I did not see a moment like this coming when I started this movie. But I can't say that I did not have a smile on my face when it did. So you know what?
Yeah.
Props to you. I am enjoying this. That said, at this point, I was still under the belief that Santa was going to wake up, that the plan was not going to work perfectly, and the last like 10 minutes would be like giant monster Santa being chasing them around until they figure out a way to like kill him.
Yeah.
And while okay, I'm okay with them doing something that wasn't expected, but they just blow him up while he's still on the ice, and then that's it. He's defeated. That is like what's basically my only main complaint. The other minor complaints would be because of the short time. It did feel like wait, all of a sudden we need to save all the kids. Like I feel like we've just jumped into that without the characters stopping and realizing the horror of the situation. You know, like I could have used the
Yeah.
moment of the characters like going, "Crap, what's going on?" Like this is
Yeah.
really dangerous and serious. But yeah, the one main complaint would be we really wanted to see Santa break out of that ice and go on a rampage for 5 minutes.
Yeah, like it's not like you needed him like the whole movie. It just would have been a nice like, little reveal at the end, and then yeah, you could have still
Yeah.
blown him up, or I don't know. Like I kept the other thing that I kind of thought was gonna have more of a significance was like the electric fence. I thought would come into play at some
All
point,
right.
and
Yeah.
it's like yeah, they corralled like all the elves and stuff into it, but I thought that I don't know that it would do something, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't have a problem with that one so much, but definitely Santa waking up was the big thing
oh yeah, like
it just felt like oh this is so weird you're not showing it, and I still liked the ending after that. It was just like I guess it was. I wonder if they wanted to do it and it was like a budget thing. It's like this is just the one thing we can't do.
that's the only thing I could really think of, because
But
and I wonder if that's why it was kind of short too, maybe.
yeah, but
I
then
don't
all I
know.
could think is why make him that big? If you can't make him like a big CG monster, then just get a tall guy in a suit and no, but not goofy, just like
Yeah,
an old school cool practical monster effect. You know, like
yeah.
I don't know,
Mm.
but
At least it's like it's like on the plus side though, that is kind of like a better complaint than saying like, oh, this sucked or this was stupid. Like I guess it's not the worst thing to have a complaint to be like, oh, I wanted more of, you know what I mean? Like
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's just it is the one main disappointment is that we didn't get to see Monster Santa like storming about for the last few minutes for them to like blow him up eventually.
yeah.
But like you say, like everything, all the build up to that was more than enough to enjoy the movie. Like you know,
Oh yeah.
when we thought the elf was Santa, he was already really creepy. I was all for this human version of Santa who was evil. Like that was fine. I was on board with that. And then
Yeah.
the real, giant monster Santa in the ice. So, no. And of course, the end of the movie is actually really weird. So,
Yeah.
going with because the name of the movie comes from the fact that at the end they train all the elves to become Santas because they figure they can sell these, to solve their money problems. They'll sell off these elves after they train them to become Santa. So we see some glimpses of like throughout the year of like Santa training where they're teaching them how to act like Santa, and then they ship them off at the end with big rare exports stamped on the side of the
Yeah.
box.
Well, yeah, it was kind of nice, like that it was a like kind of solved their problem earlier of the movie of all their livestock getting killed off, and like this is kind of their new thing. Like, oh, well, now we're just gonna like farm these guys. But I don't know if you've seen this, but this was actually based on like a short YouTube movie called Rare Exports, which is like a I haven't seen it since like the first time I watched this movie, but it was basically like a 5 minute kind of like commercial, which is basically what the ending was of like these people like capturing a Santa in the
Hmm.
wild.
So
And
so
then
so someone decided to build a backstory.
I guess it's like I think I don't know if it's just like a really popular movie that they're like, all right, or a popular video that they're like, hey, let's turn this into like a full-fledged movie. But yeah, that's where that comes from. Or I guess they engineered it to kind of work towards that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So the final shot is the pilot putting on his aviation goggles as the plane's behind him and they're loading Santa crates onto the plane.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with this one. Lot of positive things. The one sort of kind of major complaint at the end, but otherwise, music was really good. I really enjoyed the music throughout. Humor was good. Had a good bit of heart. Surprisingly touching moments here or there. Creepy moments here or there. It's not much of a horror movie in all honesty. So if you're wanting like a proper
Well,
horror experience, this wouldn't be the one to go with. But
yeah, I mean, well, like you never really see anyone die. I don't think like there's those kind of like the workers die, but it's all like off screen.
Yeah, I'd probably complain about that scene actually, because that happens really quick and it's all off camera. It's just you're trying to build up the menace of what's going on, but yeah,
Yeah, like you don't have to make it like a super like R-rated gory
that's actually
thing.
kind of weird actually when you think about it. That the only kills that happen are off screen, but there's dick on screen several times, and I guess that's just a like a different culture. Like
Yeah,
mainland Europe tends to be a lot more relaxed when it comes to nudity.
yeah.
So
And I think it it would be uh fair to point out that when we say that there's like nudity, it's not just like one guy naked. Like there's a scene where it's like a whole army
yeah,
of like old naked guys.
the one that was particularly telling was that right at the end when they're coming into the electrified fence area,
Yeah.
and the lights are shining on them, and it's just like all these old guys coming with their dicks, like, and I I wonder if this actually is technically suitable for kids, and it's in Finland, in its original release.
I mean,
Because
again,
to be fair, it's not like any of the nudity is actually sexual. Like
right.
it's very
Yeah.
matter of a fact. They just happen to be naked because they don't wear clothes. It's not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised maybe if like you said, they might have different kind of, I mean, in terms of that stuff, like the U.S. is like really uptight about that stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if other countries are more relaxed about it.
Yeah.
Although I I will
Oh,
say,
where's this going? Jesus Christ. Where's
oh
this
no,
going, Tim?
I was just gonna say, me and my girlfriend have been watching the last season of American Horror Story.
Oh, why would you do that,
With
Tim?
Actually, I think the last season hasn't been too bad,
Oh, oh.
but the stuff that they do there, I'm very surprised that they're able to show that on TV. It's like legit, like I don't know. It's like like people literally having sex, like not even trying to like block it out with stuff. It's very surprising.
Okay. Uh, that's that tangent. That's been Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. Solid good time. Let's get to some ratings, some Yuletide ratings for the movie. Timmy?
This is it's pretty hard. I might be a little harsh because I really want to give it a nice solid 8, but just the the lack of Santa just bumps it down a little bit for me. So I'm sorry, but I got to give it a 7.5. I wish it could be higher, but I need that Santa. I need that crazy giant Krampus horn Santa.
You got Santa blocked.
I did.
I I'm going to give it a little bit more benefit. I'm going to go with a full 8, a full solid, well-rounded 8, because, like I say, lots of surprising moments where it did something that you would not expect from a movie with this plot, where it would be touching, or it would be creepy, or it would be, whimsical and Christmassy. Especially because most of the movie doesn't feel that Christmassy in the sense that it doesn't feel like this is a good-natured Christmas story where we're going to have the feel-good moment. But then, sure enough, there's that moment on the helicopter where the kid's like on top of the world and it feels like Christmas.
I just imagine what if the ice did crack and and then they revealed Santa to be like the Tim Allen Santa Claus.
um, with that, guys, thanks very much for watching. Let us know what you think of Rare Exports if you've seen it in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps out. Yeah, it helps us out a lot if you do. I can't speak today. I can barely speak English. Never mind understanding Finnish. I need those subtitles. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out. And yeah, Merry Christmas. We'll be back with another Christmas movie or two next week. And our best horror movies of the year video will be coming before the end of the month. So keep tuned for those. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.